Hello there, folks. Hey, this is Joe Wazoo here. Hey, here's a little example database I wrote to play with the bar charts over in the right side of Crimson. In primitives under bar and line graphs, there are some vertical scatter graphs and a scatter graph, vertical and horizontal line, and then a scatter graph. And they're pretty intense little things to play with. So this video is not going to go into detail on these, which I have another one on my site that does, but I want to quickly show this example database, how it simulates some machine production times and will chart that data. And I'm going to use the emulator for this. And so if you want to copy this database, don't be afraid to send me an email. I'll put my email address in the comments, and I'll send it to you. And you can run this in the Crimson 3.2 emulator. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff in this. There's a ton of programs in here. So there's all kinds of things that happen in this. But anyway, let me go ahead and download it to my emulator and let's take a look and see what happens. So here's the emulator, and there's a couple things you got to set up here. First off, you got to tell it what's your target counts per hour. So let's say that our goal is a target of, say, 100 items per hour. Okay, that's our target. But then our machine rate, and here's the machine rate. Optimal production is when machine rate is half the target counts per hour. So we'll take that little advice just for playing, and let's put in that our machine rate is 50 parts per hour. Might do more, might do less, some, and so forth. And then right here is the length of hour in seconds. So I wrote this program really to simulate 24 hours, and it's going to run through. And right now, every hour takes 5 seconds. You can change the length of time to simulate an hour to be 10. It don't matter, but this is just to play with. And then I got two clocks here, and these clocks will go through the time. I'm going to put this back at 5. And so I'm showing the AM from midnight to 12 p.m. and then here from 12 p.m. to basically midnight, if you will. This is from midnight to noon, and this one goes from noon to midnight. Anyway, so let's go ahead and turn on our machines. Let's see what happens. So we'll let it crank along here. Now I did this as I was talking. The time's always running. So anyway, as you let this run, you can see that it's filling in some production values down here. There's a little green arrow that trolleys along, and it's simulating where we're at in our production. Now the chart here shows where we should be. Now I didn't turn the machine on till, say, 1 o'clock on this example today, but let's let this thing run for a little bit. Let's see what happens. Let me enjoy some coffee. Nothing like a McDonald's K-cup coffee. My first job was at McDonald's, age 16. I wore a tie to the interview, folks. Can you believe that? I wore a tie. They put me back as a chef. It lasted 6 months. Anyway, we'll just let this thing run for a little bit. So now it starts over at 12 a.m., at 1 o'clock. Look at this. You can see as it's filling in, it's going to continue to fill in the chart. And this time as it runs along, the purple or the pink line here is our target production level. And then the dots on the scatter graph is whether the machine made more or less of that hour. And so eventually, like it says here, our production rate is optimal when our machine rate is half of our targets per hour. So it's going to hit that number, and it's going to float around the pink line. So that's what we want. Now, if you alter this, in this case, if you change these numbers dramatically, say you come in and all of a sudden you figure out a way to increase your production on your machine. So maybe I'm doing 75 now for my machine rate. Now you can see down here that clearly we're exceeding. We've somehow or another, we've increased our production, which is really awesome. That doesn't usually happen, but maybe we added another machine. What about that idea? You know, you can only get so much out of one machine. If you buy another machine, you've doubled your output. So something to think about. Most companies don't see it that way. That's the weird thing. But let me go back to 50 here. Most companies stick with one machine and just push it to the limit, redline it all the time, and then all of a sudden the machine breaks and they go, I don't understand why the machine's not working. But so there you can see it's tracking along. Now on the same exact database, I can leave this running. Of course, I can turn off the machine anytime. And then the next dot's going to be way down below because it's not going to be running. And so this is going to start to tally off because we're not doing output. And if I go ahead and turn it back on, it'll start cranking again. Now down here on the menu button on this little example, I click that. And in this example, I have other pages that show different bar charts and scatter graphs. So you can go to these and it'll show you different examples of that. I can go to page 2, and this one kind of does the same thing here. I think page 3. Page 3 is interesting because it allows you to manually put in numbers here to simulate. So you can play with this a little more to see what happens as you add values into here and pretend you're doing production level. So it gives you an idea of what's going on there. I don't think this button does it yet. And then, of course, page 5 is pretty cool because page 5, you can turn on the machine from here. And then I have this thing kind of doing a little bit different graphical representation. But I put a pointer that tracks per hour, and you let it go through. Any of the boxes with red borders, you can change any of these. So don't be afraid to play with these values as you crank along. But this is pretty cool here. And then if I go back here, that's page 5. Yep, I'm sorry. Oh, wait, let me go back to page. Oh, page 4 I missed. Yeah, same thing on page 4. Here, you can use it to generate random numbers, and it'll just do a different chart, scatter graph here on that one, and then clear completely puts it in. But yeah, and then of course, page 6 is the main page, which has been running all along. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on in this database. If you want a copy of it, don't be afraid to send it to me. I really like it because you can run it in the emulator and you can play with it and see what happens. Check it out. Send me an email. Thanks a lot, folks. See you later.